How's it going, everyone? It's Johnny Beard here with another episode of the Streamer Stories podcast. My guest today is the absolutely awesome HellionCait. Here she is. Hello, hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you? How are things?
I'm good. I told you just before we started, but I completely forgot I was meant to be on camera for this. So please ignore my hodgepodge, like panicked background.
It's great.
Peek behind the curtain, as we say.
Yeah. Well, it's the most colourful green screen I've ever seen. That's for sure. So
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If only it did work like that. But it's an awesome blanket. That's for sure.
Thank you.
So Cait, if you would mind, did you want to introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know who you are?
Sure. Yeah. My name's Cait, known as HellionCait online. I'm a streamer on Twitch. Recently partnered. I say recently. It was a few months ago now, but I still say recently. I stream mostly Soulsborne content and stuff like that over on Twitch. I'm into heavy metal. I'm into just hard games, punishing games. And yeah, I've been streaming for it's my 2-year anniversary next month.
Wow.
Which is exciting.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on partner. Congratulations on nearly 2 years.
Thank you.
and yeah, so hard hitting games and the hard hitting music, that's for sure.
Pretty much, yeah. Extremes in all ways of life, really.
Oh, no. it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And thanks for being here. We appreciate it. So let's talk about the beginning, though. So we'll go back to the beginning. So little Cait back in the day. What was did you play games much when you were younger? And if so, where were you first raised into gaming?
I did. I was obsessed. I've always played games pretty much. I have an older brother, so he was like kind of growing up in the 80s. So he had like a Sega Mega Drive and like a Master System, and then a PlayStation as he got a bit older and stuff like that. So there was always games in my house. Like my parents always playing games. He was playing games. So pretty much as soon as I was old enough to also hold the controller and press one of 2 buttons on like a Master System controller, I was away pretty much. But I always wanted my own console as well because, having an older brother, he was very much like, don't go in my room, don't go near me, like,
yeah,
fuck off, basically. Am I allowed to swear? I'm assuming I'm allowed to swear.
You are, yes.
Yeah, if I wasn't, I'd struggle through this, I can't lie. So I always wanted my own one, and then when I must have been about 7, I reckon, that my parents bought me my own PS1, probably mostly to stop me annoying my brother. Probably my brother's idea. So just get her a PlayStation so she fucks off. And that was the beginning of the end, really. That was like my main hobby and interest pretty much growing up was video games, so that never really went away. But yeah.
That's excellent. That's really cool. And did you play many like 2-player games with your brother, or did he not? Was it like, nope, F off you go?
Yeah, not really.
No.
I'd more likely play with my parents. Like I do co-op with my parents. We used to play Crash Team Racing a lot when I was a kid. That was like a big family game.
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot in general was a family game, so we just take it in turns. Whenever someone would die, the next person would take over. But yeah, no, my brother was very much like, no, just go away, leave me alone. So yeah, it was pretty much just me and my parents, or I would just play on my own. But I think that's probably why, like, even now I still prefer like single player games, because that's pretty much what I grew up playing. And yeah, I'm not really a multiplayer kind of person. Probably like permanently scarred from my brother just telling me to get out of his room.
Is he still playing games himself now, or is it something that's like still something?
So, yeah, not to the degree that I do. But even my mum, I think my mum even plays games more than most of my family at this point. Like my mum's in her 60s, but she's like smashing out Assassin's Creed every weekend. Like she loves it. Yeah, she has a great time. So yeah, no, she's a hardcore gamer.
Fair play. I've had a lot of guests on this show, and I always get jealous whenever people go, "Oh yeah, my parents game." I'm like, "Well, my parents never gamed. It's not fair."
Oh,
that's so cool. Fair play.
Yeah, my dad was a big fan of like Medal of Honor. Do you remember Medal of Honor and like the PlayStation and stuff? I think that became Call of Duty. I think it's the same
kind of, yeah,
company. I think I'm not 100% sure, but he used to play Call of Duty a lot because he's a big like history nerd, and he just liked stuff about the war and everything. So you can kind of get him into gaming through that. It's like, hey, look, you can pretend to be a soldier, and he's like, "Ooh, interesting," But my mum just likes killing stuff in games. She loves it. She's away, so yeah.
Awesome. That's so cool. So what? I know you didn't technically really play the Mega Drive and the Master System, but do you have much of like memory of? Did you play them at all? Are they still nostalgic memories? Yeah,
I did. Yeah, there was we obviously had the PS1, but sometimes we just fancied like just going back and playing those kind of nostalgic games from when I was little. So we would just get out and set up the Master System, and it was mostly because Alex Kidd was built in to the Master System too, so we played that. Wonder Boy 3 is still one of my favorite like side scrollers. I love that game. They were hard as well. Like Wonder Boy 3 is a hard game because back then all you had was passwords. Like there's no saving; it was just password saves. So I never finished Wonder Boy 3. When I was a kid, I never got all the way through the game. I didn't finish it until the remake came out. And when I was older, they remade it for the Switch and the PlayStation and the Xbox, and I managed to get through it then because you could save the game. But as a kid, I never got through it. But lots of good memories, though. Anyway, I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, remastered Alex Kidd in Miracle World on the Switch as well, I believe.
That was I haven't played that yet. I really want to because that was the one that I played was Alex Kidd in Miracle World.
Yeah.
So I do really want to play that at some point. So maybe I should grab that at some point. You've just reminded me.
Yeah.
I have to go and get that after the podcast. Write this down, Alex Kidd.
No, my son, he's 8 and he loves Alex Kidd. It's weird. I never thought he likes him more than Sonic. I don't know, but whatever.
I liked him more than Sonic. To be fair, I never got into Sonic much as a kid. I found I used to get frustrated a lot with Sonic because the whole thing is like gotta go fast. You want to go as fast as possible. But I always felt like the levels were designed in such a way where they kind of deliberately or like purposefully slow you down or make you stop dead. Which I get is part of the challenge of Sonic, but when I was a kid, I just wanted to run fast.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't allowed to run fast, I just lost interest really. So I wasn't overly into Sonic. I still find Sonic quite hard now.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that because I've noticed that I played a lot of Mega Drive Sonic, and I still do to this day. But like I found that experience when I played like the Sonic Advance, like the Game Boy Advance and DS versions, that you just go fast and bosh. You get punished for being too fast. Almost weird, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Or it's just like, you slightly mistimed your jump and you just get like full on stopped, and you have to build up all that momentum again. And I didn't really like that as a kid. So it just wasn't really for me.
No.
I do like Sonic. It just wasn't for me as a kid.
No, fair play. No, yeah, but suddenly you got Alex Kidd on the Switch. He beat it like we got it for Christmas, and he beat it on Christmas Day. It's like, oh, okay, well that's done. Never mind. So. Yeah, I like the Mega Drive Alex Kidd. I like the Enchanted Castle one on the Mega Drive.
I never got to play that one.
No. I was about to ask you, actually, did you ever get the Mega Drive collection that tends to be coming out on every generation now? Because it's now on Xbox.
I had one on PlayStation 2.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I can't remember everything that was on it. I think Golden Axe was on it, which was the main reason I got it. Like Golden Axe and Altered Beast, they were the main reasons why I bought it. Yeah, classic like 80s arcade titles and stuff. Anything with swords and shields in it, or like weird skeleton monsters or anything, I was away. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever beat Altered Beast? That was a brutal game.
No, never got through that.
Yeah. Again, without cheating, never beat it.
Exactly, yeah.
So hard.
I think back then is because games weren't coming out at the same rate they are now. Games get pumped out by millions of different studios like all the time. You can always go and find something new to play. Whereas back then they weren't being made as much. So if a kid would buy a game, that would probably last them like 6 months to a year. Like they'd probably get a game for Christmas, and then you wouldn't get a new game until next Christmas. So I think they would often make games quite difficult in that way, because then it keeps you going. Like it lasts. You get your money's worth out of it.
100%. I think, and that's what arcades had a massive part to play, isn't it? Because you just kept putting the coins in, so they had to do with the money. Did you spend much time in the arcades when you were a kid, or was that not something that...
There wasn't really anything near me that was like that. It wasn't really until I got older and I was able to go into London and stuff like that, where they still have like these kind of old arcades and stuff set up, that I ever got to play anything like that. But no, when I was growing up, I didn't get to. I only got to play arcade games through, like you say, like the collections or the ports or whatever. So yeah.
All right. So give us a few PlayStation classics. And you mentioned Crash Bandicoot and Crash Team Racing.
Ooh,
Any
yes.
more? Any other awesome? This is how many games for the
Yeah, I mean,
PS1?
I collect PS1 games. PS1's my favorite console. Always has been my favorite console. I started collecting PS1 annoyingly not long before the big like retro gaming boom. So back when they were still reasonably cheap, because no one really wanted PS1 games. Like people had started collecting SNES, I think at that point, like slightly older than the PS1 kind of like Nintendo stuff was really collectible. But the PS1 not so much. So when I started, I was getting stuff for really, really cheap. Just, I'd buy anything just to build up the collection. And then it was kind of, especially with the approach into like lockdown when COVID happened, and it was very much the big retro gaming boom, and then all the prices skyrocketed of everything. Everything collectible just went through the roof.
Yeah.
So since then, I haven't really been buying as much mostly because I knew what these prices were beforehand, and I kind of begrudge paying the new the new prices. So it's frustrating. But yeah, big Crash Bandicoot fan, always have been. Played him a lot as a kid. Spyro, of course. My favorite game that I have in my PlayStation collection is probably Tombi, or anyone, any Americans, any Americans listening, probably is Tomba.
Yes.
Tombi was, I had a demo of it as a kid and I was obsessed with it. The demo seemed to never end. I don't know if anyone listening to this had that demo disc. It was like a PlayStation 1 magazine, like Summer Sizzlers. Tombi was the demo for it, and that demo just never seemed to have I never found the end of it. It just kept going, and part of me was like, have I accidentally put the full game on this disc? Because I don't know how, like, this demo is never ending. But there was little things that were like locked off and cut out and stuff, and I was always like, oh, I'd love to actually own Tombi someday, so you can save the game, and as well, because you can't save on demos. And but yeah, that was probably the most expensive one that I got. But it's, I mean, I looked at the price of it recently and I was like, I'm glad I bought that when I did, because it was expensive at the time.
Yes, it was.
But it's more than doubled in price, more than 100% up on its price, which is just wild. But yeah, there was a bunch of games I played as a kid. So there were some weird ones that seem to be quite obscure, that no one really knows them. Things like Rescue Shot and stuff like that everyone's like, what the hell's that? And I'm like, I don't even know. Stuff I used to rent from the library. I don't know if you can remember when you used to be able to rent games from like libraries and stuff. I don't know if your local library ever did that.
In North Wales, we had like a video game shop. We never had a library that rented games. We might have done, maybe. But no.
Yeah, our library rented PS1 games. I don't know how long they did that for, but there was a few games that they had. I don't know where they got these games from. They're the most random, like, obscure. Where it's like, where did you find this? Why did you have this? But I remembered having them as a kid when I'd rent them out, and then I bought them growing up. So yeah, stuff like Rescue Shot. I'm trying to think now. Spider. I don't know if any of you remember Spider. You get to be a little spider. I mean, words in the name. Yeah, clues in the name. I mean, Medieval obviously is a big one. Abe's Odyssey and Abe's Exodus, stuff like that. Yeah, a whole big bunch. I was obsessed with the PS1. I'd play anything. So
it's nice to hear someone mention Tombi. It's and again, yeah, like I said, Tombi.
Yeah, Tombi.
Yeah. And yeah, I played the demo as well as a kid, and like I had the exact same feeling. Like, how long is this? Like for me, Tombi is one of those. For me, it's such a. It's an underrated gem. We all know it is, but I mean, like for me, like when it comes to like missions and quests and being able to do like sandbox style stuff, it was so ahead of its time.
It was a weird one, yeah, because it was like this sort of linear side scroller, but it really encouraged that kind of the backtracking and the proper like exploration that I don't know was overly popular at the time, and it's a shame that it didn't actually do very well. It didn't, like, sales wise, it didn't do very well. But it's become a bit of more of a cult classic, I think, as underappreciated things do tend to do. They become a bit of a cult classic later on down the line. I never played the second one though. I'd love to get a hold of the second one someday.
Well, like yourself, I had the demo when I was a kid, and I played that, and I was like, it was always on my list. I gotta get it, I've got to play it, and all that stuff, and I never did. And like you said, the price was just ridiculous. I was like, I'm gonna have to emulate it. And then when I started like properly streaming 2 years ago, I played Tombi 1, and then last year I played.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, and then last year I played the second one.
I love that so much.
Very different, the second one to the first, can I say? As in, it's just weird because it's proper, like, it's more 3D, but then parts of it are 2D, and it just flips and stuff. And it's
like 2.5D.
Kind of, yeah. It took me a while to get to grips with it because, again, the controls are exactly the same. So just trying to get your head around that was just like, Took me a while, but it's still good.
I've not really heard many people talk about Tombi 2, so I always figured it probably wasn't as good as the first one. But yeah, no, maybe I should go back to that at some point.
I've got to watch it. If you do, I need to watch.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, most random thing, like Soulsborne streamer just randomly starts streaming like Tombi. Everyone's like, "What the fuck is that?"
Well, I saw you were playing Crash Bandicoot on your YouTube channel a few not long ago. Was it?
It was. Yeah, I mean that was kind of like a very last minute, like split second decision. I'd actually gone to record some more of my God of War Ragnarok playthrough, and then realized that past me had actually uninstalled it because I didn't like it. I gotta be honest. I'm not in the Ragnarok camp. Unfortunately, I wish I was. I wish I did like it and get on with it, but unfortunately I didn't. And I was like, I need to force myself to continue this playthrough because I felt bad for kind of abandoning it because I know people were enjoying it and waiting for the next episode, and I was like, oh, I don't want to play it. I was like, I'll just force myself. I'll go and do it. And I literally sat down, had everything set up, sat down, and then I just realized I'd uninstalled it, and I was like, I can't install that now. It's going to take like 5 hours. I was like, what do I have installed? And I was like, Crash. Whatever, I'll just play Crash for a couple of hours and see how it goes, and it was really fun.
Yeah,
it ended up being my best performing YouTube video so far, like outperformed God of War. And I think it's because I was quite obviously enjoying myself, whereas with Ragnarok I was a bit like, I don't know, not really vibing, not really feeling it.
Oh, awesome. Okay, backtracking again. So you went PlayStation 1. Where did you go after that? Was it PlayStation 2? Did you go sideways into Nintendo 64, or where did you go after that?
I went forward and sideways at the same time, I guess, because I got a GameCube. So that was my next thing. That was my first my first Nintendo console was a Game Boy Advance. So I got a Game Boy Advance. I remember my parents got that for me for doing really well at school for the year. I got my end of school report thing before the summer holidays, and it was a really good report. So they bought me a Game Boy Advance because I'd always wanted one because of Pokemon. I'd never had a Game Boy Color, so I never got to play Pokemon Red and Blue. But I was a big Pokemon fan regardless because of like the cartoon and the stickers and the cards. I had all those, but I'd never watched the show. No, I'd watched the show, sorry, but I'd never played the game. So I didn't really have context for the game in that way, but I knew there was new ones out for like Ruby and Sapphire Generation 3, just aging myself here, and that's what I wanted a Game Boy Advance for, so my parents very kindly got me one. And I knew also there was Crash Bandicoot games that were coming out on the Game Boy Advance as well, like side-scrolling. They were actually really good.
Yeah, they weren't bad at all.
Surprisingly really good. It's weird, the Crash and Spyro games on Game Boy Advance were really good. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they managed it, but they genuinely slapped. So I had one of those. So that was my first Nintendo console, but I never had like a home Nintendo console until I finally got my GameCube. So I had that, and I actually kind of stuck with the PlayStation 1 and the GameCube for a long time. I didn't advance kind of to the next stage of like sort of gaming until sort of the end of the life cycle of the PS3 and Xbox 360. So it took me a long time. It was actually Skyrim that made me get the next gen console. That was the first game that made me go, actually, you know what? I think I do need to upgrade because I am just playing the PS1 and the GameCube. I did have a PS2 as well at some point. I got one of those quite late as well. I was quite late in that kind of area. I don't know what you'd call it, that kind of section of gaming history. I was quite late to everything. But yeah, Skyrim was the one that made me finally think, I should probably, but that was quite late, like the end of 2011. So the 360 had been out for I can't remember how long for, but it'd been out for a little while at that point. So I don't know how long, but
no, for sure. So Skyrim, I mean, I love Skyrim. Did you really enjoy Skyrim?
It really like sort of showed to me what gaming was now, because I was kind of stuck in the past a bit. I was such a big PlayStation fan, and I had my GameCube where I played games like Pokemon and like Super Monkey Ball and Sonic and stuff like that on my GameCube. And Skyrim was the first game that I got that was a bit more like, I think that was probably the first like 18 plus game I ever bought, because Skyrim's 18 plus, right, for the violence and all that.
I think so. Yeah,
I think it's an 18. Yeah, I think that was the first 18 plus game I ever actually played. Really, was Skyrim, my first like adult game, I guess, in a way. So So other than that, well, you know, there's adult games and stuff you'd play on the PlayStation 1, but it wasn't quite the same. You know what? Like, I don't know what I mean, but Skyrim was the first one that was like, okay, this is what gaming is now. This is what, you know, teenagers are playing now. You know, and it was wild, and I was obsessed because it was very much my kind of thing with the whole swords and shields and the kind of Nordic influence, and especially as I got so into heavy metal around that time as well. So it was a kind of hand in hand of like, you know, people with long hair and beards and swords. It's like that was pretty much all my life, both in metal and in gaming. so yeah, it was great. It was great for me. Yeah, I loved it.
How many hours do you plow into it? Do you know?
I don't even want to know. I don't want to check. I think that's been lost to history because that'll be on my Xbox 360, which I don't have anymore. So that's been lost to the dust of time. I don't want to know. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I had a copy on the 360, which my main one, and then I got it. I had it on my laptop, which could barely run it. So I tried to play on my laptop, which was chugging along like, you know, 2 frames a second. And so I tried to play it on there. I got it on the Switch when the Switch port came out. Then obviously the PlayStation, like the special edition or whatever they brought out for the PlayStation 4, got that one. And then they did the second, like the 10th anniversary or whatever it was recently as well. So I had that one, where it's like the PS5 upgrade. So I started playing that as well. And it's like, I don't even want to know, you know, thousands maybe.
Yeah.
I don't want to know, and I've seen them out probably. Yeah.
I made the jump from the Xbox 360 to the PS4, but then I've now got the Xbox Series S, and I'm finding that now because I've made the jump of generation, shall I say, where I'm loading old data, and I'm like, oh God, this is
spent how long on this?
Yes, this is a weird relic of time. Skyrim. So, did you have like a favorite mission quests? Did you like what did you like the Dark Brotherhood? Were you Thieves Guild? What that tends to be the main two, but the others, of course. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I used to be a cosplayer. This is gonna be a complete random tangent. I used to be a cosplayer. I started cosplaying in 2011. Just before the release of Skyrim. So I started cosplaying in like autumn time of 2011. And then obviously Skyrim came out in November of that year. And the cosplays I'd done before that were very basic, casual. Like, I just want to wear a Pokemon costume to the convention, you know, whatever. And then with Skyrim, I think as well, I started finding cosplayers online that were cosplaying from Skyrim. And with that game coming out and all these armor sets, I was like, oh, like people make armor for cosplays. Like people make like proper big costumes. Like it's not just, you know, wear some clothes and just kind of do a bit of makeup or whatever. Like people can make armor and they do tutorials on how to make your own armor. So I was like, shit, I could cosplay from Skyrim. That would be crazy. So I did. So I was a big fan of the Dark Brotherhood, as you'd probably guess. So such a typical edgy.
No, that's great.
It is an edgy mission. But mostly for the Dark Brotherhood armor, but also I really like the Thieves Guild because of the Nightingale set. I don't know if you remember the Nightingale armor you get from the Thieves Guild. And the Nightingale armor was actually the first big cosplay I ever made. Was the Nightingale armor from Skyrim. So that was probably one of my favorites. And I did the Dark Brotherhood like assassin, like the black and red like catsuit thing with the hood. I did that as well. Yeah, probably those ones. But there was so many missions in Skyrim. There's a lot of my favorite ones would just be little ones, like not so much the big huge quest lines, but sometimes they'd just be random stuff that you stumble on and you're like, hang on, like I was just exploring some random cave and now there's some like, I don't know, necromancer or something that I've got to go and destroy for like 5 missions or something. I don't know, but that's why I loved it so much. I think was that kind of, again, because it was the first time I was experienced an open world as well. That was my first open world game. So it was just mind blowing, really.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nightingale armor is what I was gonna talk about. If you didn't mention it already, yeah, that's my favorite. It's so cool.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'll just send you a photo of my costume.
That'd be
awesome. It's gonna look really dated now, but I'll show you it.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So, did you play Oblivion at all as well, or was it just Skyrim?
I didn't. I knew about Oblivion because, like, to mention my mum again, who's always liked gaming, she always used to like the look of Oblivion. She used to pick it up every time we were in the game store, but at that time the only thing that we would have to play it on would be the computer because we didn't have any kind of home console at that point. Like we didn't have an Xbox, we didn't have anything like that could run it. So it was always the PC version that she was looking at, but our PC didn't have the right specs, so she never bought it. But I always remember her picking up Oblivion and thinking, that looks really good. That sounds really good. So I knew about Oblivion, and when Skyrim came out, everyone always said, oh, it's like this is the next one on from Oblivion. I was like, oh, that's the game my mum always wanted to play. But I never got to play it. But funnily enough, when I started streaming a couple of years ago, one of the first big games I started streaming was Oblivion.
Oh, nice.
Because I'd never played it before. I tried it, and it's often hard with a franchise to go backwards. Like, if you start with Skyrim, it's kind of hard to go back and play Oblivion or something like Morrowind. It's a completely different experience. So I had tried it, but I was very much like, okay, I would kind of get out of the first cave and then wander around a little bit and then just not pick it up again. But I was like, if I do it on stream, then I'm going to have people in chat that can tell me where to go. They can kind of encourage me to keep exploring or point out little things. I think it kind of keep me focused on it and might help me to get through the game. And I'm saying that I never did get all the way through the game. I stopped streaming after a while, but I think that's because I started streaming Souls and I kind of started doing that instead. But I did really enjoy it. It was hilarious. Like, Oblivion's one of the funniest games I've ever played. Like, the stuff the NPCs come out with.
Yes.
It just absolutely annihilated me. It was so funny. And I have thought about going back to it at some point.
Yeah.
And really actually dedicate myself to finishing Oblivion on stream.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm playing it offline at the moment. I'm sure you're more than aware. Streaming offline is, for me anyway. I don't know if you agree. Playing games offline doesn't happen very often for me anymore. Yeah. Everything I do is online. But yeah, I've managed to finally I've got now about 70 plus hours in Oblivion. I'm really like, finally I've got a game offline now, yay.
Yay, good.
And yeah, you are right, like one of the lines I don't remember playing it first time round when I played it like 10 odd years ago, but one of the lines that I loved recently is you as an insult, one of the NPCs go, you look like a pregnant cow. And I was like, what? I've never heard that line before. So
the one I most remember is it was just this random dark elf who was like, do you know what the fine is for like necrophilia? I'm just asking.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't hear that line first time.
And I was like, what?
Yeah. I don't think they'd get away with that now.
I don't know if they would. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was just like the shock of like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. What? No reason. Yeah.
Yeah. No reason. Asking for a friend. It's like.
Yeah. I think one of the answers is 500 gold. And he goes,
I think it is, yeah.
And he goes, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I saw that. I approached that NPC about a week ago. So yeah, very fresh in my memory.
So funny.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, let's talk about Soulsborne games. I mean, it's your bread and butter, it's your go-to, it's what you're known for. When would that transition go then? What was your first game in the franchise, and how did it steer your path into that?
I think I first played Dark Souls 1, or attempted to play Dark Souls 1, I should say. I think it was like 2012 when they released the Prepare to Die edition, which I think came with the DLC. So it was probably when the DLC was launched and they packaged it in the Prepare to Die edition. And I found it for really cheap. It was on sale in my local game store. I thought like 15 quid or something, which at the time obviously was cheap because it was quite a new game still at that point. And because I'd played Skyrim, my appetite had been whetted for like, okay, what other sort of games are out there? What other games exist? So I bought it, and it was the PC version, which was the one that was on sale. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I can run it. Maybe. And I tried it on my laptop, and it just about kind of ran. Not very well. I still remember to this day, it took me 6 attempts to kill the Asylum Demon, which I don't think is that bad. For someone who'd only played Skyrim up to that point, I don't think it was that bad. I just remember just being like, what the fuck? Like, this is a boss in this game? Like, it hits like a truck. Like, what the hell? I'm just flailing weapons around like mad. Like, someone help. But I actually did the traditional Dark Souls newbie mistake, which I still see streamers do now when I watch people play Dark Souls 1 for the first time. And they're at the beginning of the game, and everyone makes this same mistake. Everyone's going to know what it is already. If you're a Dark Souls fan, you're listening. It's when you get to Firelink Shrine, you go off to the left because you can't see any other way to go, and you go walking straight into that graveyard where all the skeletons are, and they one-shot you over and over again. And you're thinking, I don't see any other way of progressing. Like I have, and obviously, as we know now, you go to the right, and there's a staircase that takes you up to progress the game. But yeah, I wandered straight into the graveyard and just got one shot over and over again by skeletons, and I was like, what the fuck is this what is this sadistic? What kind of insane psychopath has made this game where it's impossible to continue? So I quit. And I just stopped. I stopped playing it. And it wasn't until Dark Souls 3 was out in I think it was 2017 where I first got to play it. It'd been out. I can't remember when it came out. Was it 2017? The Dark Souls 3 came out.
I'm not sure. No.
I can't remember. I think it was around then. Something around then. I don't know. I get it mixed up with Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne was 2015, so I think Dark Souls 3 was 2017, from what I remember. Roughly that, anyway. And I started playing that because I worked at a game store at that point, and I'd never gone back to Dark Souls. But working in a game store, sometimes you get people that come in and say, "Oh, my Xbox that I bought from you is not working, or my PlayStation not working." And someone came in saying that their new Xbox that they'd bought from us would overheat and shut itself off after about 2 hours of play. Yeah. And we were like, okay, but we have to test that to see if that's true. That is happening. But in order to test that, someone has to sit down and play it for 2 hours.
Oh, no.
In order to test it. And I was like, oh no, what shame. Like, I volunteer as tribute. Oh no. Yeah. And my assistant manager was kind of like, well, okay, you can be the one to test the Xbox, but you're going to have to play Dark Souls. Kind of thinking like, oh, I'm not going to make it enjoyable for you. You're not going to have a fun time.
Yeah.
And I also had to do it on the shop floor in front of customers as well. So it's like an added layer of humiliation of like, yeah, you get the fun job, but you have to play Dark Souls 3 for the first time in front of all these people. Brilliant. So I did, and I started playing through it, and it was so funny because I was so used to Skyrim. You know how you use the trigger to attack in Skyrim?
Yeah.
In Dark Souls, that's the heavy attack. You know, you do a normal attack with the bumper, but I didn't know that because I was so used to Skyrim. So I was just going around like heavy attacking everything, which takes 9 million years for you to swing your sword. And I first tried the first boss, and my assistant manager was just like, what? That wasn't meant to happen. And I was like, I am obsessed with this. Please let me borrow it. Please let me take it home. And he was like, oh, that's fine. Yeah. So I borrowed it and I took it home and I played it, and I loved it. I was absolutely obsessed with it. It was a very much like a kind of mind blown, like I can suddenly see the universe kind of moment for me in terms of gaming. Because I think as well, up until that point, I'd kind of stagnated. Even though I worked in a game store and everything, I was very much like, nothing's really coming out that I'm interested in. I'm not really vibing with anything at the moment. And when I got to play Dark Souls 3, it kind of proper reignited this passion for gaming that pretty much put me where I am now. So I don't think I'd be a streamer if I hadn't played Dark Souls 3, for sure. Yeah. I wouldn't be playing games as much as I do. I don't think I'd still be playing them, but not to this obviously degree where I'm playing them every day. So yeah.
What a story. Wow, that's amazing. Fair play. Oh god. Okay, so is there like a game that you've played that we class as like the worst game that you've ever played? Is there anything that comes to mind when you think of that? Is there any awful or maybe not? I don't
Jesus.
know.
Honestly, I don't know.
It's a hard question to answer. Sometimes.
It is a hard question.
Because, again,
I've been more disappointed by titles.
Yeah.
You know, like there's games where I don't know if I'd be able to say things like the worst game I've ever played, because there's titles that come out and I can see like for some people these would be amazing, but they just don't tick the boxes for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's definitely been things I've been disappointed with. Like Far Cry 6 came out, for example. I'm a big Far Cry fan. It's the only I only really play a couple of shooters, and Far Cry is one of them because I just kind of liked the mindless kind of it's switch your brain off kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I didn't find it too difficult. Because I'm bad at shit. I'm terrible at shooters. My weapon accuracy does not exist. Like my weapon accuracy is like 2%. I'm just laying down cover fire at all times. Like I will hit everything. It's just a spray of bullets. So I'm not overly into shooters, but Far Cry I really liked. Sniper Elite I really liked as well. Like that is the only shooter I'm actually good at, but that's because it's stealthy and you can take your time and you're sniping. And I'm good with sniping, but anything where it's like kind of frantic shooting, I panic. I don't know. So yeah, Far Cry 6 came out and I was quite disappointed with that. It felt like a bit of a step backwards. compared to 5, for example. They added things in, but they took a bunch of stuff away, and I really hate when game companies do that.
Yeah.
But it's like it's great when you add things to it, but when you strip things out that were there in previous versions of the game, it's like, why have you done this? So yeah, I was disappointed with that. I mean, I guess it's quite an incendiary opinion, but I'm not overly happy with God of War Ragnarok. It didn't grab me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mostly due to like the kind of backseating that you get from the NPCs. They're constantly telling you what to do, and the kind of, I found the combat to be quite, I don't know, I'm not really a button masher, I suppose. So, and I can see why people love it. I can 100% see why, and I wish I was into it as well. I wish that I was enjoying it. But yeah, when it comes to actually like the worst game I've ever played, I don't even know if I could tell you really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some good examples there, like you said, and yeah, it's subjective, like you said as well, isn't it? So, yeah, it's and yeah, there's so many ways to look at the question. So yeah, you definitely answered it for sure. Yeah. So what are you playing right now? Offline, online? What are you playing at the moment?
Online. Well, streaming. I'm doing Dark Souls 3. Fisting only, punching. So I'm doing fist weapons in Dark Souls 3, which is really fun. I like doing challenge runs and stuff in Dark Souls. Because I think once you've played through the game, a few times, you need to kind of start changing things up to make it still feel fresh.
Yeah.
And the kind of, I really like how the Souls community and Souls streamers have this kind of sadistic urge to continually make the game harder and harder for themselves, like all these self-imposed rules. It's brilliant. I love it. It's so inventive. Like, you guys are crazy. Like some of the stuff that people come up with, I don't know. Like I know some people have modded Dark Souls and Elden Ring where you have like 1 point of stamina and 1 point of health. Okay. And stuff like that, where it's like it's just like sadistic levels of like, why would you do this to yourself? So I'm doing Dark Souls 3, punching, like fist weapons only, which has been a lot of fun so far. I'm also doing Red Dead Redemption 2 for the first time because I've never played Red Dead before. There's quite a lot of big, sort of well-known, well-loved games that I've never played, like Red Dead, Last of Us, like Fallout New Vegas, all that kind of thing. So I've got those kind of on the back burner as ideas to stream. Because I think first playthroughs, watching people play these games that people love for the first time without spoilers as well, because I'm not spoiled for any of those games. I think people quite like that. So in terms of offline, my offline games are very different to what I stream.
Yeah.
Like at the moment I'm playing Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 2 and I don't give a fuck who knows about it.
Fair play.
Yeah, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 2, I've been playing that. Jurassic World Evolution, where you build your little dinosaur park. Disney Dreamlight Valley, I've been playing that on the Switch. It's most, to be honest, it's mostly games where I can just turn my brain off, like nothing overly taxing. So I really like, when I have days off, I just gravitate to games where it's like, I don't know, like a little collectathon, or I'm just like building a little village or building a zoo and stuff like that, where I can just not really think too much. So I do tend to play a lot of games like that. I also like a lot of shorter games that have fairly easily obtainable platinum trophies, because I'm a bit of a platinum trophy hunter on PlayStation as well. So that's what I'm going after in Ty. Like I did Ty 1, now I'm doing Ty 2 for the plat. So, but yeah, it's fun.
That was poetic. I was about to ask you about achievements and trophies.
Oh.
I was going to say, do you play games like that at all? I do. So yes. How many games have you platinum? What are your favourites? What are the hardest? 51 or 2 platinums, I think. I can only really remember that because I think the 50th one was quite recent. I remember getting, it's my 50th plat. I can't remember what the game was, which isn't very good. But it might have been Elden Ring. It might have been Elden Ring as my 50th. I think it was. I think I saved my 50th plat to be Elden Ring. So nice.
That was quite nice. Yeah, I think I'm on something like 51 or 2 or something like that. I was kind of obsessed with, before I started streaming, I was very much like, I really tried to play games and try and get the plat in every game I played, which isn't always viable. Sometimes you start playing something and you're not really vibing with it, and you have to just leave it at like 4% complete, which hurts my heart. Yeah. I like seeing everything on 100%. But I don't do it as much now, because obviously, as you know, like streaming, like you said earlier, like you don't often have times to play games offline. And I'm not one of those trophy hunting streamers. I have got Elden Ring. I did get the plat for that on stream. But that's not really something I've ever, because when I get plats, I kind of like sitting and using guides and looking up like the quickest way of getting collectibles and stuff like that. And that's not really something I feel like I could do on stream, because I'd constantly be looking stuff up and I wouldn't really want to do that. The only other one I've considered doing on stream is getting the platinum for Skyrim again, because I got it on the PS4 and then there's a whole new trophy list for the PS5. And I'm like, I could do that without really thinking. I wouldn't need a guide. I'd know what to do. So I have considered doing that. But yeah, I do like getting trophies. I do look at trophy lists when games come out. I'm one of those people.
For sure. Oh, you just unlocked a memory for me now, because I had with Skyrim. I had Skyrim similar to you. I had it on the Xbox 360. Then I had it on the PS4. And when I first played it on the Xbox 360, I got all of the trophies, but one, which is to get all the Daedric artifacts, because I made a wrong decision on one of them.
Or like you lost one, that's an annoying one.
If you choose the wrong decision on certain quests, that's it, it's gone. And of course, I was trying to play it properly without cheating, and I didn't know. And then so that was it. Then I got every other trophy but that one. And I was like, oh man. And then when I got it on PS4 with the Game of the Year edition, 5 year, whatever it was you mentioned, I was like, right, that's it. We're going to platinum this, and we're going to platinum all the Dawn Guard and everything else as well. So I did it. I was like, yes. So
well done. That's so good. I was the same. Like I got quite close to like 1,000 gamer score or whatever it is on Xbox. I got quite close to that, but never quite finished it. So when the PS4 one came out, I was like, I need to. By that time, I was like, I was into plats and stuff like that, and I was like, I need to get it. And it was really frustrating because there was one of the last trophies I needed. I think it was a DLC trophy. So I got my plat, which was fine. But there was a DLC trophy I needed, which was like craft an item out of Skyrim. I don't know if you remember that one. That was on like the Dragonborn DLC, I think.
Yeah.
And there is a bug that has existed in that game since the DLC first launched in 2013 or whatever, which they'd managed to import over into the PS4 version. Where the guy that gives you like the Skyrim quest to start that just disappears from the village, doesn't exist. The NPC just disappears. Gone. And I remember I spent like something like a week in game, like just fast traveling around, like resting, resetting, like going into every single house, like desperately trying to find this NPC. And I was like, they don't exist. Like, where are they? I was like, could they have been like kidnapped? If there's like a kidnapping quest or something, like, where are they? And I looked it up, and it was like a known bug from all those years ago where this NPC can just disappear. And the only fix for that was to start a new save and go all the way back over to like Morrowind or wherever it is, like Solstice time, and go and like bum rush that quest kind of thing just to get the trophy. I had to start a new character, a new save. I was just with this one. It was like a bronze trophy for the DLC. I was so mad about it. So mad.
No, I my sympathies.
Classic.
But you got it. You got it though.
I did in the end. Yeah, I mean, Bethesda is so bad for that. One of my last trophy I needed in Doom 2016 bugged as well, so that needed a whole new playthrough. I mean, it's a nightmare.
It goes to my theory, actually, as someone that loves the Elder Scrolls games as well. It's something that I personally wonder if this is why they've delayed so much with Elder Scrolls 6, because they know now if all the bugs and issues, like if Skyrim got released today, they would not get away with half the shit they did. So yeah, I've got this theory that that's one of the reasons they're procrastinating so much about it, is that they've got to get it right. They've got to get it spot on, because Cyberpunk has changed everything, I think, in that respect.
Oh, definitely. I think there is a bit of a difference between sort of unfinished games that just feel really unpleasant to play, and games like Skyrim where it was just kind of like charmingly glitchy. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like Cyberpunk, I think, just looked horrible on release. I think it like the way it ran, like the frame rate was just like shitting itself all the time. Whereas Skyrim was completely playable on release. It was just lots of weird things would happen, and it was quite charming in a way. I know sometimes I think back to that kind of like pre-patch vanilla like 2011 Skyrim, and the most insane stuff would happen. I remember I had a giant that I think it was one of the quests at the start of the game. I think it was near the start of the game, and there was a dragon that's attacking a watchtower, and you go out there where the watchtower is, and there's obviously the dragons flying around, but a giant somehow just came and like interrupted the quest. A giant came in.
Yeah.
And
I think I know about this, yeah.
And hit this giant, like, I don't know what happened, but the giant hit one of the guards. And you know, back in like vanilla Skyrim, if a giant hit anyone, they would just go flying across the map, like ragdolling.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened to this guard. This guard went flying, but the guard seemed to somehow like collide with the flight path of the dragon. This is the only thing I can think of what happened, because the dragon's got a set flight path, right, where it goes around in the sky, like a line that it follows. Obviously, you can't see the line. But the guard somehow collided with that flight path, and then the guard started flying in the dragon's flight path. So the guard was like flying around the tower at like 100 miles an hour, and you don't see that shit anymore. That was like one of the best things I'd ever seen in gaming. Oh, but you don't get that anymore because they patch it out.
Maybe he's a Dragonborn, he just doesn't know it yet.
Exactly. I was like flying around at breakneck speeds, like dude's fucking like dead. Like he's just like ragdolling around the air. I don't even know.
He's just living his best life. You know he's just gonna die, but you might as well just make the most of it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like his corpse just flying around above Whiterun forever. I don't know. But
oh my god. Yeah, no, I've not seen that one. That's for sure. Oh my god. One. Oh wow. Okay. Let's talk about streaming. So nearly 2 years now. That's crazy. Happy 2-year anniversary's coming up. So what was the things that set into place that made you think about considering streaming, and then what was your path into streaming like?
I think well, it's funny, before I streamed, or before I even considered really streaming, I would sometimes try and like post clips from my PlayStation. And I'd put them on like my Facebook or my Instagram stories or whatever, and I had like my kind of commentary over the top. And people like that I knew, like friends of mine, would say like, "Oh, you know, they're funny. You should do streaming." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't really have like a setup or anything. I didn't have a PC. I didn't have any way to do kind of streaming at that point." So I was like, yeah, you know, thanks for the compliment or whatever. But it wasn't really something I truly considered doing. Until like I suddenly kind of like, I had this PC. I got the PC, and I was off work because of lockdown. I think a lot of people have this same story of like being off work because of lockdown and being stuck at home and playing so many games. And I suddenly had a PC, and it was like, oh, you know, if I was like kind of looking like, I wonder how much like a secondhand like Blue Yeti mic is. Or I wonder how much like a secondhand Elgato is, and I got everything off Facebook Marketplace. I managed to find Facebook Marketplace deals for really cheap, so I was just going around picking up all these little bits, and I got a cheap webcam on Amazon, like a £20 webcam, which is still the one I have now. Big up Amazon. And I had like the most jank. I still have the most jank setup in the world. It's better now than it was. But I was like, I'll just give it a go and see. And it was mostly just thinking like my friends would be there. Like I didn't really think about the idea that other people would find my stream. It was more like I'll stream and people I already know will see that I'm streaming and they'll come in and like we can talk. Especially because like you say, with the lockdown and everything, people hadn't been able to socialize for so long, and people hadn't been able to see their friends in so long. And I was like, it's quite a fun way to kind of just chat to everybody, maybe. So I did. I was so nervous going live for the first time, and even for the first like kind of few months of streaming, actually, I would physically shake before going live. I was so nervous because I'm not really a kind of public speaker. I'm quite introverted in the kind of offline. So it was really scary to kind of do that. But I did it, and all my friends showed up, and I streamed Crash Bandicoot. It was my first ever stream. And it just went so well, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to just keep doing it and just see what happens. And it just kind of, people would come in that I didn't know. You know, people would pop in, and I'd be like, oh, like I don't know how you found me, but hi, like welcome in. And it just kind of grew from there. So yeah, it was like something that I was like, I can actually take this seriously maybe, and actually sit down and start doing it properly. I don't know, but yeah.
Fair play. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so funny, isn't it? Like you said, I'm sure this might be. I don't know if it's the same with you, but for me, when I was streaming for 5.5 years now, and when I was, the people that I chatted to 5 years ago are not the same people I'm chatting to now. Like people come and go all the time, don't they?
Yeah.
Are you finding that as well?
I've got a very small core group of viewers that have been there from the start, but they were people I know in real life. So these are people that I knew before I started streaming, and they came in when I started streaming, and they are still there now. So they're mostly mods and people with like the founders badges and stuff like that in my chat, and they're still there. Like my mod Pizza, my mod Lou, they've both been there, I think, from the first stream. I know Lou definitely was there for the first stream. I think Matt, who's a VIP, was there for the first stream. And there's a bunch of people that have been there definitely since the beginning. And it's funny as well, when you get partner on Twitch, it actually opens up I think like 8 more founders badges.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it gives them to the next 8 people that had subscribed. So obviously founders badges are for the first, like, I think it's like 5 people maybe that subscribe to your channel, something like that, 3 or 5, I can't remember, that ever subscribe to you. And then when you get partner, it does the next 8 as well from that. And there's people that come into my chat occasionally that have a founders badge that I didn't know before I started streaming, but they still pop in. Like, even if it's just once a month, they'll just pop in and I'll see their little founders badge, and they'd sub to me when I was playing Oblivion, or like my first ever attempt at playing Bloodborne on stream, which was, back when I really started. And to see them still show their faces really, really, really heartwarming. But like you say, no, definitely, like the main bulk of the community is definitely made up of, like, not even people that were here a year ago. It's different. Like I go back and see old clips. And this is one reason why I like having my my stream chat show on my actual stream as well, with people's names and stuff like that, just in the corner. Because then when I watch clips back from like a year ago, I see all these names and I'm like, oh yeah, like that person. I might not have seen them for a while. And you can always go and check and, check up on their socials and see if they're okay and stuff like that. But there's definitely names that flash up and you think, I've not seen them for a long time. But that's just the way it is, isn't it? Some people will stick around while you're playing one specific game. Like, some people will go on Twitch to watch specifically Bloodborne. So when I stop playing Bloodborne, they won't watch me. But then they might come back when I start playing Bloodborne again. And that might be in like 2 years' time. And they'll just suddenly pop in again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's you again.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's sweet to see it evolve. But like you say, there is sometimes you think back and think, I wonder if where that person's gone and if they're okay. Because I haven't seen them for a while. Yeah.
For sure. So have you got any like favorite memories, any favorite streams that you've done in the last near 2 years that come to mind? What are those moments that you think of the best streams or memories or whatever?
The best ones have usually just been like, all my best streaming memories are to do with the community pretty much. So if we somehow come up with another weird inside joke or something that just gets taken too far, and things like that, or like we did a charity stream. We've done one of those in the past as well, and they just smashed my expectations for that. Just raised so much more than I thought. Or like when I did Bloodborne without leveling up. So fighting the DLC for Bloodborne at level 1 took months, but there were people that would come out to every single stream to watch me throw myself against this boss like 300 times. And that was like, had a really good feel as well, because it was like they're still here, even though it's so repetitive, and I'm getting downtrodden, but they're still here and they're there for every single stream, like waiting for me to succeed and that kind of thing. That's my favorite memory. And it's funny, like one of my streamer friends, Breadcrumbs85, big shout out to Breadcrumbs, said recently that all of his best memories from streaming aren't to do with viewership or numbers. And I was like, that's such a good point. Like, all of my best memories, I mean, there might be one or two, you've had a raid from someone who's had like hundreds and hundreds of people come in. Like, that'll be, of course, be like a nice memory for you to think back on and think, wow, that was so good. Or, like, of course, when I got partner as well, I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. But a lot of the best memories I have on Twitch, and the reason I stream on Twitch, is not to do with those numbers or those metrics. It's all to do with the community pretty much. So,
yeah.
But I've said that to them since the start. It's like, I wouldn't be half the streamer I was without my community. Like, they represent me, and I'm just really proud of them pretty much. They're great. They're a great bunch. Don't tell them I said that though.
No. Shh, we'll cut that out. So what advice would you give to anyone thinking about streaming? The pros and cons of streaming. What would you say to anyone who's thinking about picking this up?
My best advice would be to ignore Twitter. Don't go ever on Twitter.
Never go on Twitter. Twitch, Twitter, yeah, it's something else, isn't it?
Don't listen to the people that are like, when you start streaming, you need to have like a $500 mic and like a DSLR camera. Don't listen to any of that bollocks. Like, I got partnered on Twitch with my webcam stuffed in a toilet roll holder, right? You don't need fancy shit. Like, you really don't. All of my setup was secondhand. Everything about my setup is secondhand. None of it was bought new, except like my stream deck, I think, and the monitors. I think that's the only bit that was bought brand new. The most important thing is to... You basically have to market yourself, essentially, and that's what I try to do. You're kind of marketing yourself. You kind of are the product in a way. If you're just doing it as a hobby, like, it doesn't matter. Just have fun. The most important thing is, as long as you're having fun, people will watch you. If you're not having fun, people know, and they will stop watching you, because it's not fun to watch someone who's not having fun. But in terms of actually, if you're trying actively to grow your stream, grow your brand, try and get companies to notice you, things like that, then you just got to market yourself pretty much, and try and have a kind of consistency, I think, is key. I think a consistent schedule, so people know the days that you stream and know the days that you don't stream. Even if you have to cancel streams or change things around a little bit at the last minute, people still know the core days which you stream. Like, my community know Cait streams Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, that is when she's on, and if I go on Twitch and she's not live, there's going to be a reason. It'll be, listed somewhere. But yeah, consistency, having a solid sort of aesthetic and branding really helps as well. I'm not gonna name drop, but there was a creator that I've really admired for years and years and years, like my favorite YouTuber ever, that I've watched since like 2016, I think. I've watched him for a long time. He's a really big YouTuber, recently surpassed 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Followed me on Twitter recently because of my branding, specifically because he'd noticed the kind of logos and the kind of it's like 80s stuff, like heavy metal, like death metal kind of stuff, and that's a really cool branding. You don't see that very often. That's literally what he said to me when I was like, how did you find me? Like, how did you know? And that just shows how important that is, because someone who I didn't think would particularly run in my kind of socials or my circle online found me through that and dropped a follow because of that, and that's a good way to kind of market yourself. But the main thing I say when it comes to advice on Twitch, this goes for anyone, whether it's a hobby or if you want to make it more of a career or anything like that, is watch other people's streams and make friends. And I don't mean that in the kind of creepy parasocial way of kind of going in and thinking I've been to your streams a few times, we're besties now, you have to talk to me outside the stream. Like, that's definitely not what I mean. But I mean in the sense that or how my community have managed to do it. There's so many streamers that are in my community, and we all know each other. We all go to each other's streams. If I pop over into like Dr. Decomposing stream, for example, I'll see a bunch of people from my community in there, and vice versa. Like, people from Doc's community come over to mine, and it's because you make friends that way. And I say it's kind of hard, because I don't want to say like go onto Twitch with these express idea of like you're going to make loads of friends, because it does come across quite creepy. There's this weird line that needs to be tread really carefully online when it comes to making friendships, because you can make such incredible, like, fulfilling friendships online, and I have done that on Twitch. Like, the friendships I've made have been amazing, but they are something that happens naturally. So while I do say, be open to the idea of friendship is probably a better idea. Go into people's streams, see how they stream. That's something else as well. Like, see what people are doing on their stream, see what works for them. Like, see, even if it's something like, where is their webcam positioned, where is their chat positioned, where do their alerts come up from, because they've chosen that for a reason. And like, maybe compare it to yours and think like, what could maybe I could improve in my stream? Why do they do what they do? Does it work for them? Would it work for me? Is there kind of influences I can take from that? And I think that's just how you succeed in a lot of things, really. Just kind of see how other people are succeeding, see how you can make it work to your advantage, or do it in a way that works for you. Obviously, don't straight up copy people, because that's also weird and creepy. But I think, be open to influence from those around you, and be open to friendships from those around you, because becoming part of a community on Twitch is so fulfilling, not only in terms of it's good for your stream anyway because people will recognize you, but just socially, I found it really fulfilling, and I've loved the friendships and people I've met on Twitch. It's been amazing. So yeah.
Fantastic. What an answer. Brilliant answer. So much to unpack there. So anyone who is interested, probably dissect that. I'd say there's a lot there. All worth talking about for sure. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Cait. Got one final question for you, and then we're done really. So if you were stuck on a remote island and you only could have 3 games with you on that island, you're on that island forever. I'm sorry, it's done. What would those 3 games be? Why? And also, you can have internet connection, so that's important.
Dark Souls 3.
Yep.
Because it's just one of the best games ever made. Life-changing game for me. I can lose myself in that kind of world. Just every time. It's an amazing game. I love it so much. And also, like I say, you're going to be on a desert island. You need something with replayability. And like I say, the amount of insane, unhinged challenge runs you can do in Souls games will just keep you going for the rest of your life. Let's be honest. I'd be cracked if I lived on a desert island and I had nothing but Dark Souls 3 to keep me entertained for the rest of my natural born life. I would be the best Dark Souls 3 player on the planet. Yeah. No one would know about it because I would be stuck on a desert island. But I would still... I mean, actually, if I've got internet connection, I can upload videos. So I'll be doing I'm just doing these cracked challenge runs from the middle of Pacific or something. I don't know. So yeah, Dark Souls 3. It would probably have to be a Pokemon game. I don't know which one. I don't know. I guess you'd be tempted to pick one of the newer ones because of replayability and sort of online connections and stuff. My favorite one is Pokemon Ruby. Yeah. So maybe if I just take Pokemon Ruby with me, I don't know, that'd make me happy. And a third one. I'll go for Age of Mythology, which is an RTS. Yeah. Because that'll keep my brain sharp. And I'll keep my mind going when I'm on this little deserted island and I feel myself slowing down. I'll keep my wits on edge by fighting all these different mythical armies. I think that'd be fun. So yeah, I reckon those 3.
A fantastic free set of games, that, isn't it? Very different. Love it. Cait, thank you so much. One more time, we'd like you to tell us where we can find you on your socials, on Twitch.
Yes, I'm HellionCait literally everywhere. So Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. All that good stuff. I'm live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, fisting things in Dark Souls. So if you think that sounds interesting, then I'd love to see you. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
It's been great. It's the first episode of the season, so thank you so much. No, it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing to see there. Well, thanks so much. That was wonderful. But that's it. So thanks so much, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care. Bye.
Bye.